Hey y'all, it's your girl Nadia.
And it's me, Coach T.
And we are two average people.
Yes, we are.
Welcome back to our channel. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I got some things though that I really want to talk about, y'all.
All right,
because I've been struggling with this stuff lately. So I'm trying to see what y'all think about it. So I've been really thinking about this 80-20 rule.
80-20 rule. Okay.
So, as my wonderful husband has said, you can apply this 80-20 rule to your life, right? Like he always says, I bet you only wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. And I actually thought about it. I was like, yeah, I actually do.
It's true. We
now
all
that
do.
I think about it, and it made me go through my closet and be like, okay, I really got to get rid of some of this stuff because I only am wearing 20% of it. But okay, let's put it to relationships.
Okay.
We believe, there's a lot of people that, you're not going to get 100% from any one person. Your goal is to try to give 100%, but we all know that that's not always possible, right? Mm-hmm. But to then hopefully meet 80% of what your partner needs in a relationship. Okay, some people may disagree, so before you jump on me, let me explain, right? I think it's too much pressure to put on someone to have them or expect them to meet 100% of your needs, right?
Understood.
Do you agree, babe?
Yeah, I think trying to reach somebody's 100% is going to be tough, mostly because we're not stagnant people.
Right.
We're always in a state of flux and growth and evolution. So trying to have to be responsible for trying to be somebody's 100% when they're always up, down, left, right, spaghetti thoughts all day is gonna be daunting to say the least.
Don't talk about me like that.
I'm not talking about you. I'm totally talking about her. No,
so rude.
I'm just saying it's either spectrum of the frame. It's gonna be very awkward. It's gonna be tough. Because how does one do that?
How does one do that, right? I agree. That's a lot. How do you do that, right? And you change over time and all of it. But what I want to talk about is this 20%. So we were kind of talking about this the other day.
Right.
Okay, after a while of not getting about 20%, and maybe a little more for some of y'all, but we're going to work on it together.
Yeah, we're going to work on it.
But let's just say you are getting 80% of what you need most of the time.
Okay.
And then you have this 20% that you're not necessarily getting. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does that 20% over time feel bigger? So you have a situation like us where we've been together a lot of years, y'all. Y'all know we've been married 13, going on 14, and we were together probably a good 7 years before that, right? Yeah. So the question I'm asking myself is, does that 20% feel bigger over time because you haven't been getting it for so long? And is it the same 20% that you haven't been getting? Or does that shift, like how he says, we're never stagnant? So does that 20% shift? Okay. How I think it starts to feel bigger after a while.
Yeah, it definitely starts to feel bigger after a while. And more importantly, it starts to feel more important because it starts to feel bigger. It starts to feel very important. And that's why you'll see people in the midlife crisis stage of their life stepping out on their husbands and wives of 25 years because it starts to feel very important. I must do this or else. And then you get the thing, you're like, ooh,
I really didn't
need that or else. Definitely not or else. That for sure not or else. That was way too much to think about. And that's why they call it a crisis.
That thing ain't a midlife crisis.
The midlife crisis is real. It's real. You know what I'm saying?
So how do you, so I guess the question then becomes, if it does feel bigger for you, or if it something you're okay with, how do you tap into that 20% without expecting your partner to give you that full 100%? How do you tap into that 20% for your partner that they've been missing? So for instance, you like to go to musicals, but your partner hates it because what's the point of a musical, right? You one day would hope that your spouse takes you to a musical, but they never have because they hate it, right? This is something small. I'm just using something small.
Hypotheticals.
How do you then tap into that 20% to your spouse who's not doing that thing that you wish they would do?
So let's just clear this. Let's clear the scenario up. Are they doing the 80 and we're talking about the 20? Or are they lacking in the 80 and now on top of that, the 20?
That's the hard part, because I think they would be doing the 80, but the 20 now feels like 40. So then you say, well, they're only doing 60 anyway.
But
where's my other?
Gotcha. Okay. So,
looking at 80 to answer your question, they are doing the 80.
Okay, but looking at 80 as 100% though, because that's the best we're gonna get. Right?
Correct.
Looking at the 80 as the 100, I think the best way to engage that 20, meaning if I am not meeting, as your husband, not meeting your 20, I have to first shore up, make sure I can get as close to my 80 as I can, which we just said. And now that I'm doing that, if I wanted this is where I would consider over and beyond. Okay. So what I would do from here is try to ensure I can systematically approach what that 20 is. Do it out loud, loud and proud. Make sure that you see it, she see it, everybody see it, because it needs to be prominent in the thought process that is your relationship. It needs to be clear and concise and valuable, not to you, but to the other person. So if I don't like musicals, but you love musicals, then perhaps we can start making steps in that direction. Maybe we can start going to plays more often. Maybe I can ask you to teach me the value of the musical and be very open to that experience so that I can be more mindful and have it more. Of course, I can just buy a ticket and sit through it. But the truth of the matter is, you're not going to actually do that. That's the part we got to be real with ourselves about. We're not going to actually do that because we don't want to be there in the first place. And if we are there, we're going to be there like, oh, when is singing over? Again? There's more singing. Okay, fine. We're just going to smile and you're going to end up. And that's not enjoyable for the other person. It's not. They'd much rather you not be there at all.
Facts.
They'd much rather you not be there at all. Yeah. So if you're going to be there and do it on purpose. But the way to do it on purpose sometimes is step one. Understand the value of the thing that I don't necessarily care for in the moment, but still has value to the other person. Step two, start to engage in that. Start to engage in the content on social media, or start to, because that's easy. That's you scrolling anyway. Let's just keep it real. You are scrolling anyway. So let's stop acting like you're not. So, and now just look up some things you can scroll through and some folks you can enjoy in the meantime. There's a guy, a black man, I forget I'm gonna find his TikTok and I'm gonna put it up down here, somewhere here. Anyway, he talks about opera because he's a singer. He's an opera singer, but he talks about the realness from the political aspects of opera and how sometimes it's unfair and it doesn't quite do the things for black people, we wanted to do. And so even though he's talking about opera, which I may or may not necessarily care about, I was an opera singer for a long time. We're not going to go down that road, but that's not the point. The point is, I may or may not value that, but I can value his opinion on it. And that can give me a door or a window into that world. And now if my wife wants to go to a musical or an opera or something like that, it gives me a reason to go, all right, well, you know what? Let's give this a try. I enjoy this thing over here that's like that thing adjacent. Why not go full throttle and just go through the process? And if she's going to love it, all the better.
It's keeping an open mind. And see, this is where the work comes in, because in doing all of this, you still do have to manage expectations, right? I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and they were like, I would just wish my husband would take me on a date. And I said, well, did he do that when y'all met? And she was like, well, no. And it's like, right. So do you expect him to do that now? But see, the needs have changed. The things that you were focused on back then were different than the things you're focused on now. And so that 20, what was maybe 10% then, now feels like 40 or 50% because of many different reasons, right? You haven't been getting it. There's now a need to maybe connect, and you feel like that might be a way to connect. But this is where the work comes in, right? Because you have to manage your expectations.
You do.
And you have to be in tune with where you are and where your spouse is. Mm-hmm. So that you know how to communicate that need if it's becoming bigger, So I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Like, there's some things that sometimes will feel bigger for us that weren't before because we've been together so long, right? And so where that's a beautiful thing, it's also harder in some ways to manage some of the things because we've been together so long. Like things like, what do I get him for Christmas? I've literally probably bought him everything you can think of. We've gone on trips, have rented luxury car, you name it. Same with him. What do we do?
Yeah.
What gift can I give him that I haven't given him already? Right? That's so. We're like at the point where let's not worry about the gifts part. Yeah. Let's just create experiences, because we run out of ideas of what to do. But again, do I expect a gift? Do I expect him to put thought into a gift?
There it is.
So these are the
and do you do it covertly or overtly?
Right.
Meaning, are you saying out loud, no? Well, internally you're like, you better do something.
Right.
You better do something. You can't do nothing. You better do something. Like that. Like those are things. And it's both. Yeah, it's both. It's not both. One or the it's both. We both do this. So
So you have to be mindful that your 20% is either staying 20% or you're communicating about your 20%, because I do feel like it feels bigger over time.
Right.
And I still go back and forth whether it's getting bigger. He thinks that it does get bigger over time.
No, I think it feels bigger. It
feels bigger.
Feels. Sure. It's still 20 though. It's still the 20. I was watching Fresh Prince the other day, and it was the episode where Uncle Phil got a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And
talk about a midlife crisis.
And shout out to light skinned Aunt Viv. She was like, "Yeah, you about to get rid of this motorcycle." And he was like, "Lady, you can't tell me what to do. What's wrong with you?" And then 2 days later, he came back to her and said, I was thinking about what you said, and I realized you're just trying to keep me safe. And I really appreciate that. And I want you to know there's nothing more important than you in my life. And if you want me to get rid of the bike, I will get rid of the bike. And it was this lovey-dovey moment. And then Jeffrey comes in and goes, "Sir, the shop called and said your bike is completely totaled." And so it had nothing to do with what she said. It had everything to do with him going, "Damn, she was right."
Yeah.
Okay. And now he just had to eat crow a little bit. He was trying to ease that pressure for himself. That's what that was. But the point is, it was a whole midlife crisis that he had to kind of just save face for.
Yeah.
And if that crash or whatever happened to the bike, he would still be riding that bike. That's the truth.
That's fact.
So but at the end of the day, now that the bike is totaled, it's kind of like, am I buying another bike? Am I passionate enough to fight my wife on this for real? No. That's actually not that important.
Right.
It just, but it feels that way. It feels enough for you to go, I'm taking a stand.
It feels bigger for sure. So here are the questions we want you to ask yourself about you either talk about this with your spouse, your husband, your wife. Talk about this together.
Right.
Or ask yourself these questions first so that you can talk about it later. 1, are you getting 80%? Oh, not every day, but do you feel like you are getting at least 80% of what you need in your relationship? That's number 1. Number 2, if you don't feel like you're getting 80% of what you need, then what are your expectations for your relationship?
I would also add, are you giving the 80 that you're expecting?
Right. Both. That's hard to answer or ask without input from the other person.
Well,
because
yes.
I might feel like I'm meeting your 80% and you may be like, nah, you mean like 50.
Fair.
And so I think the question of, are you giving your all? Are you doing your best? Yes. But as far as meeting your partner's needs, that's a discussion.
Okay. All right.
Right? Because you have to, there's no way for you to really know that.
I agree.
Unless you talk to the other person about it.
That is true. That is true.
So think about what your expectations are in your relationship so that if you feel like your 80% isn't being met, you can go and say, hey, I don't feel like my 80% is being met.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like it's being met on a daily basis or there's real effort. And here's why.
Yeah. ... Yeah.
Is your 20% feeling bigger for you? Take some time and explore that. I know, like I said, for us, sometimes it does feel like my 20% is bigger than it feels bigger. It feels more like 30 or 40% because after being together so long, that 20%, you're not really stroking that, right? You're just trying to keep up with all the things that, you can, so you're not really stroking that. So what is your 20%? What do you feel like you need to kind of, to kind of keep that where it needs to be and not make you run off looking at Joe Mo or whoever and like, oh,
yeah, Jomo got to get the hell out of here. Damn you, Jomo.
They looking kind of good over there, right? Makes you not want to look elsewhere or feel like. So really, I want you guys to explore that part of your relationship first for yourself.
Facts.
But also sit down and have this conversation with your spouse about this 80-20. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think when you sit down and have the conversation about that 80-20, make sure you come into it not thinking that you have the right answer, especially when you're dealing with your partner's needs and wants. Don't come in going, I know I give you yours, even if you think you do, because the truth of the matter is you don't really know.
You don't know.
We are all in flux. We are all spaghetti thoughts in some way, shape, or form, and sometimes and then others. So you can't always come in going, you got it right, and so that's what it is. Because sometimes, no, you don't. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. But that conversation is. Let me tell you something. Last thing, that conversation is not one that you can have once.
No.
That's what I had to learn. That's why I had to say it, because I had to learn that. That's not a conversation you can have once.
Ongoing.
It's an ongoing check-in regularly type of thing. After learning about love languages, one of the things that we did, I think we should probably get back to as well, is checking in on our what they referred to as your love tank. And
yeah, we haven't done that in a while.
Haven't done that in a while, right? And I know, especially for the fellas, it sounds corny as hell. However, asking the question gives you the answers that you will need to be able to make better decisions moving forward. So don't worry about it sounding whatever. Sounding is not what's relevant.
Yeah.
Is it effective? Yes. As long as you come at it with an open mind and heart, yeah, it's relevant and it will work. So, yeah.
All right, y'all. You heard it. Again,
80-20.
80-20. Talk about it. Have a conversation about it. And I want to know what you guys think. Are your expectations being met? Does your 20% feel really big right now? Comment down below. Let us know. And we will see you next time. Remember, we're better together.